Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're so glad that you decided to tune in today, whether you're watching this podcast live as a vodcast, or if you're listening when it is an audio podcast. We're so glad that you decided to be in the audience. Remember, you can always watch it on our YouTube, which is what?
Meet the Author Podcast.
Oh, yeah. Meet the Author Podcast. You can always find all of our videos, all of our podcasts there. And you can also always listen to this podcast on wherever you choose to watch a podcast normally.
Right. Especially indiebooksource.com. Okay. Let's take a look here. Want to remind everybody about the Voice of Indie podcast right after this show. Blog Talk Radio, Beam Weeks, and Gary G's. At the end of our show, there's a little trailer that'll tell you all about how to get over to that podcast. And that's every Wednesday night after 8 o'clock. Episode Rewind this coming Saturday will be episode 88. It's David Tyndall. He's a martial artist, author, and a globetrotter.
Yes.
Yeah. That was a good episode. We enjoyed our visit with him.
We were just talking about him the other day.
That's at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S., and right here where you're watching right now. Also, we want to remind everybody about Book World, the Great Escape podcast. That's every Wednesday before our show at 1 o'clock Central Time. And that's, you can go on YouTube at CJ Peterson with an O, Peterson. Next Wednesday at 7:30 p.m., we're gonna be traveling. We're gonna still be traveling. We are traveling right now, actually. But tune in for From the Vault, and it's our episode 18 with Cheryl Payton, who writes Cozy Mysteries, and Carrie Ellen Stone, who writes a little harder crime novels, a little more blood and guts kind of stuff. That was episode 18, and that'll be on July 26th. I think that's all I have in the newsroom today.
Well, I certainly hope that you were able to watch us live stream on July 3rd as our team investigated in Texas at the infamous Hill House. That's fingers crossed. I hope that we were able to broadcast it from there. Because sometimes that has not been so easy when we've been out in the stream trying to get a live stream going.
That is
so out in the field.
Would you like to introduce our guest?
I would. You can just bring her right on.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. This is
Maria.
Dr. Maria DeBlassie. She's a native New Mexican mestiza. She can explain to you what that means in a minute. And award-winning writer and educator living in the Land of Enchantment, which, as you all know, is New Mexico. We're really happy that she can be here with us tonight. Welcome, Maria.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it. Without people like you, we wouldn't have a show.
Very true. Because nobody would sit and just watch us.
Yeah. No, it'd be boring really quick.
I wouldn't.
No, I don't. I don't watch these. I made the mistake of watching it on TV one night because it's on a TV channel too. And never did that again because there wouldn't ever be another podcast again. Why don't you explain what a mestiza is?
So mestiza means mixed race. So I use it to refer to our various cultural backgrounds. So we have Indigenous, Hispanic and European, and on my mother's side, some, Latina, Latine, but it all gets really mixed in there. So essentially in New Mexico, we're products of colonization. So a lot of when the Spanish came in through Mexico, through, land grants, through the conquistadores, even earlier than that, a lot of our bloodlines get mixed and our histories get lost due to issues of cultural assimilation and whatnot. So saying your mestizaje is a way of acknowledging a lot of that historical and cultural erasure, particularly within indigenous communities and our indigenous bloodlines.
Yeah.
And I get the term from Gloria Anzaldua's Borderlands or La Frontera. And she talks about, when you are mixed like that, you're always kind of straddling these different worlds and occupying a liminal space.
Yeah.
So always exciting.
Yes. Do you want to tell us a little bit about why you started writing, or
Absolutely. So I say I'm a professor, writer, and bruja. So everything I do is all kind of interconnected. I think of my writing as magical spells. Storytelling is a form of spell casting and magic, and it's something I always grew up kind of doing. I grew up in a household of readers and writers and creators. We were all very much rooted in mysticism, and now as a teacher, I carry that forward in my classes, even embracing the more numinous or mystic experiences of learning. So in a way, writing has always kind of been with me. It's been a part of me. And when I was very young, I knew I wanted to be a writer. There was something very magical about words. And, every time I've needed some medicine or healing, stories have been there for me to transform an experience or give me insight into something I'm going through or see myself in other characters. So after a while, it seemed only natural that I start paying it forward. Sorry, I have one of my familiars has come up. So I think off he goes. But so after a while, it seemed only natural that I started writing my own stories that speak to others. And yeah, conjuring my own magic from that.
For the audience who doesn't speak Spanish, you want to explain what a bruja is?
Yes, a bruja is a witch, or in New Mexico, we come from a long line of curanderas, or healers, or folk conjure practices, where we work a lot with the land, with being in tune with nature and ourselves. So a lot of very naturalistic spiritual beliefs. But because of, again, the sort of issues of Spanish colonization, a lot of those practices were villainized as witchcraft. So many of us are reclaiming that term witch or bruja and saying it's a term of beauty. It's a term of empowerment. So I weave that into everything I do, how I live. I write stories and nonfiction about everyday magic, essentially. So rather than feeling like we need to look outside ourselves for luminous insights or mystical occurrences, or that we need to move someplace else to find the life we want, I always think of taking time to actually be grounded and centered in our lives right here and now, and tuning into the magic and the mysticism that's all around us. If we know how to tune into that, right? If we can adjust our perspectives and our frequencies to be able to see those magical occurrences. So yeah, I think daily life is where the magic's at.
That's really interesting. Of course, like I told you just before the show, that I lived in Mexico, and the brujas were, like I said, they sold herbal remedies at the various mercados and outdoor markets, and it wasn't considered a negative.
Yeah.
But I think here in the States that Halloween, you see green-skinned witches with warts on their nose flying on a broom. And, so that's what you think of when you think of witchcraft. And then I think sometimes people think of the black arts. And like I said, we have a lot of friends that are witches. some of our favorite people, our very most favorite people that are so full of love are practicing witches, and they don't practice the black arts, though they have been able to help us when we've been doing investigations and we've run across people that have had curses laid on them by, you know what, it was by a teenage girl that came from a long line of witches, and teenagers do dumb things because I'm telling you right now, people, a crone or hag would never curse or put a spell on anyone negatively, because she knows it's going to come back to her, tenfold. But when you're 16, you need to learn those things. But anyway, you do a lot of dumb things. I don't care what your belief system is. And so we didn't know that much about it or how to deal with that. And she was able to really help us help them.
It's interesting too, because, in New Mexico, there's just this natural spirituality where, regardless of your, how you identify spiritually or religiously, there's a sense that ghosts are all around us. There's mystical energies, and it's just kind of a normal part of everyday life. Although it is really fun when I teach a class on the legacy of witchcraft in popular culture. So we look at, Wizard of Oz and, the craft, which is like the epitome of teenagers doing bad stuff with magic. But it's always so interesting because my students, I was telling you earlier, their notion of witches is very much the Wicked Witch of the West or Glenda the Good Witch. But they don't realize that most of us are, just average people who hoard too many mason jars and really like plants and, talk to our animals and that sort of thing. So we're just a little bit more in tune and a little bit more aware of energy. So it's really fun because it's kind of a revelation to them that witchcraft is a little bit more mundane, and yet very mystic at the same time. So a lot of fun.
Yeah. Just because it hasn't been a way of life for most people, I would say that then it's different and it sounds strange and stuff like that. But there's, you talk about people having a green thumb. Yeah. And those are people that are really in touch with the land, and they talk to their plant. I mean, I talk to my plants all the time. And if you have plants, I hope you do, because they'll grow better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you tell them, like I've got some orchids sitting over here looking at us right now, and I am always telling them, "You're beautiful. You're doing really well."
Absolutely, I love that.
And that friend that I told you, I also said to her, okay, this is going to sound weird, but I said, I need to ask you, this is what I said to her, are there certain trees that really are good for healing? And she said, yes, there are. And I said, oh, good, because there's a tree in our neighborhood where when I'm not feeling well, I always feel like I need to go over and just, lay hands on that tree.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure the audience is like, oh my God, Joan has gone over the deep end.
A tree hugger.
A tree hugger.
Yeah.
Trees are the best. The trees are the best medicine. Whenever I'm in a, just in a funky space, I just like to go out into my garden and just chat with my plants, talk to the birds, and I'm a better person for it.
And anyone that has pets knows that that's true. And it's been proven that cats do heal you with their purring. Yes. That's medically scientific proven fact, folks.
Yes. It's really nice on a windy day to go out for a walk through the woods and to hear the leaves.
Yes.
It's just an amazing sound, just surround. It's almost like going to the ocean, to the beach, And
I think they actually call that like a wind bath. And I love doing that because literally the wind is just sweeping away all this stagnant energy, and it's just like clearing out your head. Yeah, so if it's not in New Mexico in the summer or in the spring, we can have really wild dusty winds. So I don't like those kinds of wind baths.
No.
But if the wind is kind of like a nice normal amount of wind, it's nice to go out and just let it sweep everything away.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should talk about your books. You know, I could talk about this stuff all day long, which I think everybody knows, but though they haven't ever heard me say that I lay hands on trees or talk to plants before, so that's probably a revelation.
Well, one thing as far as writing is concerned, and this is a question that we're going to ask because the audience always asks it, especially for your fiction books. Do you consider yourself a pantser or a plotter?
Oh, that's such a great question. A little bit of both. I definitely have a loose plot that I know what I'm going to write, but then usually the characters start taking over and they surprise me with all sorts of plot twists. In my novella Weep Woman Weep, I originally thought it was going to be a short story about 20 pages, and then I named the protagonist Mercy, and she just said, "Get out of my way. This isn't a short story. This is a novella." There was going to be the promise of romance at the end, and she's like, no. This needs to happen on page. So I'm going to introduce a new character you haven't even met yet. And she just took over and told the story, and I said, all right, this is your story to tell. Just tell me what words you want me to put down on the paper. So I always have a general sense of where I wanted to go, and then the characters just start speaking to me. So yeah.
Oh yeah, the character, and I think all of the authors listening will agree to that the characters definitely take over, and they will take you places you didn't intend to go. And every author will tell you that their characters are real people. They're very real to them, you know?
I mean, in Weep Woman Weep, so that's about, it's based on the legend of La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, which, and it very excitingly just won the Nautilus Award, a silver category for Books for a Better World, in spirituality.
Oh, wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I just found out about a month ago, and it's very much a story about overcoming generational trauma and ancestral hauntings. So for people who aren't familiar with La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, it's this urban legend that terrified me as a child. And it's basically about this woman who flies into a rage, throws her children in the river, and then immediately regrets it, and tries to get them back, but it's too late. So she spends her afterlife roaming the riverbanks, searching for her children. And the scary urban legend part goes that, like, if you're a child out at night, be careful, because La Llorona is going to get you, thinking she's one of your kids. And in Weep Woman Weep, I played with the story a bit, but Mercy basically survives an encounter with La Llorona, and she loses her best friend, though, in the process. So La Llorona takes her best friend, Mercy somehow survives, and she realizes, she thinks she's okay, but she comes back not quite right. And she realizes that her tears have this power. So every time she cries, stuff happens. And so she's really afraid of this power, because she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. And over time, she starts rebuilding her life from this situation, and she realizes, okay, there's this thing, La Llorona has marked me. I can't change that, but how do I move forward and build a joyful, vibrant life? So the majority of the story is about her learning how to break these bonds of generational trauma and ancestral hauntings, so that, her mom sort of paved the way for her for a better life, and she wants to continue breaking those cycles so that the people who come after her are free from La Llorona's grip. And so I write about everyday magic, but I also write about the everyday gothic, the sort of cultural and ancestral energies all around us, some of which are good and some of which are not so good, like La Llorona. Because when you are a cycle breaker, when you are trying to break trauma, those energies will always try and pull you back into those cycles.
Yeah.
It's like that old saying, misery loves company. That's true for unhealthy spirits as well, right? They get angry. And I actually, when Weep Woman Weep first came out, I had the most terrifying nightmare that La Llorona was just enraged that I had published this book because she didn't like the truth it told. And she didn't like that it was teaching people how to break free from her. And she was just livid. And it was the terrifying dream. I mean, I woke up in a cold sweat. But then afterwards, I felt like, wow, me and Mercy, we must be doing something right if La Llorona's coming to me in my dreams to tell me how upset she is. So,
Right. Wow.
yeah, but yeah, Mercy just, I had this idea for a story for a long time, and Mercy just took over and said, if you want a story about finding your joy, move out of my way because I know exactly the story I want to tell. So I let her tell it.
It's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
We need to take our first break.
All right.
And everybody stay tuned. Stay tuned because the book giveaway today is Weep Woman Weep. Right?
Yes.
So we'll get to
No,
that.
it's a book of their choice.
Oh, it's a book of choice. That's right.
So
Never
Weep
mind.
Woman Weep or another book if they prefer.
Yeah, so you have a chance to get that one. I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will be back after a word from our sponsor.
Now on Kindle Vella. Paradise, My Prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Published by Fresh Ink Group, Paradise, My Prison is on Kindle Vella with 3 free episodes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes.
It's 1919. Back from the war in Europe, Eric Lasko returns to Floodwood Station, Ohio, the small coal mining town he calls home. There, he faces new foes. One poses a threat to his personal long-term relationship. The other is lurking in the adjacent Hocking Hills State Forest, a vicious, incredibly lethal beast driven by bloodlust. An 11-year-old girl and an old man have seen the creature, but no one believes the claims of a young child and a known drunk. When the first body is found, Eric, his father and brother, become suspects in his grisly death. To clear himself and his family, Eric must prove the beast exists. As the gruesome body count rises, the immigrant miners realize what's stalking their town. Every country calls it by a different name, but the creature is the same. Werewolf. Who is it? The residents reach a conclusion, but are they right?
Mystery hovers in the Magnolia Bluff Public Library. It has nothing to do with the hundreds of suspense novels on its shelves. Caroline McCluskey is the librarian. She finds a crimson hat and a black and white poodle puppy. They belong to Esther Williams. Esther is missing. The police can't find her. Neither can the FBI. Esther's only hope is a ring of 3 women investigators who form the Round Table. The Round Table has already solved one mystery in town, but this time, a woman's life is at stake. The Doggone Diamond Dilemma is now available on Amazon.
Welcome back, everybody.
We're back.
Why don't we talk about some of your other books? Can we start with Everyday Enchantments and tell people a little bit about that? Cute cover, by the way, those of you who are listening. It's a dark brown, or is it a black background?
It's sort of a dark brown, yes.
Well, that's what I thought. And then it has a coffee cup, right, with steam, or is it a teacup?
Yes, it's got some magical steam coming out of it.
All right. It's really cute.
Thank
I like
you.
it.
So Everyday Enchantments was my first book, and it is the subtitle is Musings on Ordinary Magic and Daily Enchantments. So I started writing that as a way to kind of write myself back into a magical life. So I just finished graduate school, gotten full-time work teaching, and really wanted to just rediscover who I was now that I could breathe a little bit. And I was also trying to figure out, who was I as a writer, as a woman and human being, and as a mystic. And so I started writing just little daily studies and things that made life more magical. So I essentially collapsed the boundaries between the mystic and the mundane. I talked about the healing properties of a really, really good cup of coffee in the morning and the beautiful synchronicities that happen in your life when, you're for example, I had one where I was, this really happened to me. It was an essay about how I had something happen at work that really shook me up. And so I got really uptight and very tense and like, if I can micromanage the situation, nothing bad will ever happen. And I went to a meeting down in the west side of Albuquerque that I'd never been down there before. And I got completely turned around and I ended up on this dirt road, after Rainbow and Universe, which are real street signs down there. So this dirt road past Rainbow and Universe, I'm out in the middle of nowhere looking at the mountains. And I just realized, oh my God, this was a gift from Trickster Coyote telling me I need to take a chill pill. And I just need to look at the beautiful landscape and the beautiful sky and the beautiful mountains and realize there's nothing I could have done to prevent that difficult situation. And in fact, the people I worked with were incredibly supportive with me. I was just a very young professional and very self-conscious. And Coyote came to say, hey, relax, loosen up, get lost in the desert for a little bit and you'll be fine. So I write about those sort of trickster moments or those synchronous moments or, the beautiful conversations we can have with the moon. So they're tiny little essays. The longest is maybe 2 pages long. And it's basically an invitation to get people to stop and be present in their lives and to recognize that magic is all around us. So that is, the beginning point of my writing journey. And that too won a couple of awards, which I was really excited about because it was kind of an experimental piece that really resonated with a lot of people. So it was very exciting.
Good.
That sounds good.
Yes. And I do want to say that no matter what your belief system, you can get the same thing from that book, just that to you, it wouldn't be the trickster. It would be someone else or something else, speaking to you. But those things do happen every day, right?
Absolutely. And I like the way you stated it. It's, regardless of your spiritual beliefs, it's a book for anyone who just wants to reconnect with themselves and make their lives feel a little more magical, whatever that means for them. I think sometimes we can take for granted the joy and the beauty that's right in front of us. Live in such a go society, it can be hard to pause and just take in the wonder of the world around us.
Absolutely. And for different people, it would be different things. Like Rob talked about walking through the forest and just having the wind blow and listening to the trees and how that was cleansing, Or for sitting on the ocean and listening to the waves come in has always been my go-to place.
Exactly.
It's going to be different for everybody, I think, but I'm sure that everybody can connect with the idea that there's some place in nature, if you believe in God, and if you're a Christian, then you believe that God created the earth and the planets and all of that. And so, of course, you can find healing in that, because that's all part of his creation,
And his creation is magical.
Very magical.
Exactly.
And if you don't walk in that, it doesn't matter whether you're a Buddhist or a Hindu or a mystic,
Yes.
or if you're a witch. I've noticed that we all speak the same language. It's just with different words. Do you know what I mean? That's what.
Oh, exactly. Yes. Very well put.
Yeah, I just
And
want people to know that it can relate to everybody.
Exactly. Yes. And I design all my work, all my writing specifically so that anyone can engage with it, regardless of their beliefs.
Yeah.
So there's the universal there, and in everyday enchantments too. I focus on nature, like you said, but I also talk about what I call sacred simple pleasures. So the small things in our lives that bring us joy, and they're so beautiful that they become sacred. So, reading a really good book, and in the summer in New Mexico, we have these gorgeous monsoons with these, thunder and lightning and, really beautiful rainstorms. And so I love reading Gothic romances and Gothic novels to the rainstorm. It's very soothing to me. So I write about things like that have become sacred, or taking time to knit beautiful blankets for people you love. These are sacred acts that we do all the time probably and don't think of as sacred, but they are, right? Every little thing, cooking soup is a sacred thing, right? We're creating beautiful edible potions for people that we love. So I write about a lot of those things so that we can just pause and really appreciate the energy and intention we can bring to our lives.
Just stop and appreciate for a minute.
Exactly.
Let's go to the next book. Practically Pagan, an alternative guide to magical living.
Yeah, so this is a really fun one to write. My publishers through this were Moon Books, and they created a series called Practically Pagan, and it was a little tongue-in-cheek. The first interpretation of Practically Pagan was, if this book is calling to you or appealing to you in some way, well, then you're practically a pagan. I think there's a lot of stigmas and assumptions about what paganism is, and it's actually not too scary. And then the second part of this was the practical part of paganism, which is, sometimes we can get very esoteric and very lost in a lot of things that can be intimidating to people who think of witchcraft and paganism in, really intense occult ways. So they wanted a very practical approach to magical living. So I really leaned into that. And this book is sort of a how-to guide for a more magical life. And again, you don't have to be a pagan or a witch to get something out of it. It's just if you're wanting to feel more everyday joy, it's a book worth picking up. And I say, no spells, no fancy props or equipment required, no knowledge in esoterica or anything like that. It's just simple everyday advice for tuning into yourself and to what makes you happy. So I talk about sacred simple pleasures. I talk about making your routines rituals. So you're not just cleaning your home, you're cleansing it by just appreciating that you have a beautiful home to clean. I talk about radical self-care. So really simple core concepts that help people reinvigorate their lives.
Good. That sounds really good.
I think there's a lot of people that need that.
Yes.
Yeah.
To be reinvigorated, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially after the pandemic. I'm
Oh,
I
going
yeah.
through my own reinvigoration process.
Yeah. A lot of wounded people, wounded
Yes.
psyches.
that are still hurting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
believe so, yeah.
And like you said, from Everyday Enchantments, first cup of coffee in the morning is a very sacred ritual for many people.
It is a glorious thing.
Think of it that way in your mind, but believe me, it is.
Absolutely.
I think George does.
Yes, I do too.
You can't wait to have his first cup of coffee.
Oh yeah, I look forward to it every morning. I don't know what it is about that first cup, but it's magic.
There's a lot of things that I have to do that are sacred rituals. I mean, I never thought of them that way until you started talking about it just now, but I realize that's it's a good way for me to change my focus and look at something a different way. So thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So then we have, it doesn't want to come up, hungry business.
So this is a fun one. This is actually a short story, and it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek take on the zombie apocalypse. And
it's like a heart on a plate, right? For those that are listening and don't see it.
Yes, it's a heart on the plate, and it's the tagline is dating. It's hungry business. So it's also a commentary on how dehumanizing the kind of mainstream dating world can be, where you're kind of always having to go out and put yourself out there, and sometimes you're just going through the motions because social conventions say this is what you have to do if you want to find someone. But the story is also ultimately about hope. So I write what I call, for my fiction, cozy gothics, cozy gothic tales. So I love going dark and looking at the nuances and the gothic elements of things, but we have to end joyfully. I want that happy ending. I want that catharsis. So in Hungry Business, the protagonist is realizing that the thing she's looking for is right under her nose the whole time, if she just lets herself be who she is and stop talking herself into doing these things that don't really make her happy, which I think is a common issue for any introvert. You just let yourself enjoy being an introvert. Your life will happen more naturally for you that way, versus thinking you want to do all this extroverted stuff. But in that world, there are things called hungries, and they are zombies. But you can't always tell that they're zombies because they look like humans, and no one really knows how the infection is spread. It's something that starts kind of on the inside. And in that case, it's sort of like a soul numbing that happens. And so the protagonist is really looking for connection and really trying to make sure she's not getting numbed out while looking for it. And the ending is pretty darn delightful. So she goes through her ups and downs, and for anyone who's ever had bad dates, there's some funny tongue-in-cheek things in there. And I will say, with the help of a lovely orange tabby cat, she finally finds what she's looking for.
Excellent. Though, in reality, there is such a thing as energy vampires that, and those of you that are not used to this kind of speak, all that means is that you all know people like this, okay? And they come into your life, they're negative, they're needy, and it's constant. It's constant. And they literally drain you of your energy. And you'll think of somebody while you're hearing me talk that's like that. And that's what this book is kind of talking about, how to not give in to those energy vampires and give away all your energy.
Exactly. And to stay away from situations that make you feel dehumanized and disconnect you from yourself.
Yeah, none of us need really negative people
No.
It's really exhausting to me to come across people that are always negative. Everything's bad. Everything's a trauma. Everything's horrible. Life sucks. I can't handle it. It's like I'm at an age where life is too short for me to waste any of it.
Absolutely.
They're going to be looking at everything as life sucks and life is horrible, and I'm going to go out and eat worms. Well, go eat worms, and I'm not going to.
Right, exactly. Yes, and it's so I call it. I like that you brought up the psychic vampires, because I call it like the ordinary gothic, things that are actually quite terrifying, but that get so normalized we don't actually see them as terrifying. So people who are energetic vampires, and we just sort of think like, oh, they're just, they're just a gloomy person, or they're this or that. But really, when we take a step back and realize, actually, that it's not good that we're around these people. This isn't healthy. It's not good to hear this stream of negativity. That's where the ordinary gothic comes in. So we can recognize those things in stories and say in our own lives, yeah, I really shouldn't be normalizing these things or saying that they're okay. If I feel drained after being around this person consistently, then I really shouldn't be around them, period.
Cut the ties.
Exactly.
Adios.
Sayonara.
Okay, well, let's see. We better take our second break, right?
Yep.
We need to give our sponsors their due here.
Yes.
So, and enjoy their books as well. So hang on, come right back. We're going to have a book giveaway, and Maria's going to read it a little bit and tell us about our next book.
And we'll let you know where to get in touch with her.
Exactly, and all that stuff. We got a lot to do here,
we
folks.
do.
So hang in there.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than three-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
First, there was Siren Song, then Siren Song 2. Now comes The Siren Hunter, a continuing saga about Angie Holland and her never-ending battle with the mythological denizens that are not even supposed to exist. Is The Siren Hunter a conclusion to the undersea horror? Only the sirens know for sure.
The Siren Hunter, now available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites. Or contact this podcast. The trilogy is complete.
People who like to read want to get their hands on books by Becca Jones.
Becca Jones, the breakthrough author who tells it like it is. It takes courage to tell a story when it reveals dark secrets. Becca Jones delves deep into the hidden world of sexual abuse. She tells what happened and also tells how she survived.
Meant to Be is much more than just entertaining. Meant to Be gives you a point of reference, hope to cling to, and becomes a guide for survival if you have suffered the same thing. Meant to Be, Becca Jones, a must-have.
Meant to Be is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and many other bookseller websites.
And we're back.
Hello.
All right, let me tell you how to get in touch with Maria, first of all, real quick here. All right, her website is Maria DeBlassie, and that's MariaDeBlassie for those of you that are just listening, .com, of course. You can find her on Twitter at EnchantmentLL, and Enchantment is EnchantMent, and then LL. Facebook, same address, Enchantment LL. Instagram, at mdeblassie.writer. And let's see, YouTube. YouTube is at MFD287. Now, if you don't remember all of these, then you can just go to her website and you can find everything there. And again, her website, whoops. I didn't mean to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Is mariadeblassie.com. Aren't you glad I didn't get rid of that by accident?
Yes.
Oops. Her email is mdeblassie@gmail.com.
Okay, we're gonna start the book giveaway, and that is going to be, let's see here, the first 3 people to email mdeblassie@gmail.com will win an ebook of choice. So you can have your choice of any one of the wonderful books that we've talked about. And anything else you see there, I suppose, right? Now, a reminder, if you're here in the United States and you'd rather have, and you win a book, if you'd rather have a signed paperback copy, Maria would be happy to send that to you.
But let's reiterate, that's in the U.S. only.
U.S. only, though, for that.
We appreciate all of our worldwide audience. We love having you, and there are more joining all the time. We're always amazed, and we're so thankful. But it's expensive to send you things, so
Yeah.
you can have an
If you moved a little closer, it wouldn't cost so much.
No.
But then you wouldn't be in another country.
No.
So.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're listening to this on the podcast, go ahead and email her and see. You might,
Right, even if it's weeks later, you know, she may have extra copies that didn't get given away.
Yep.
Yeah, that happens.
Yep, it does.
And she'd always love hearing from you anyway. So
Yes, I always love hearing from readers. So if you ever want to shoot me an email, please do. I love responding to them. So
Awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, and if you're a fan, please let her know why you like her books. And also, when you read a book, please leave a review.
Yes.
Very important to all of us. Let me see. So, which book are you going to
read from?
Yes, so I am going to read an excerpt from Weep, Woman, Weep.
Okay.
And since we talked about that a lot today, and this is just a short scene, sort of a funny one. It's at the point where Mercy has survived her brush with La Llorona, and she's basically rebuilt her life from scratch. So she's built this thriving farm, small farm called Mercy Farm. She's, dealt with all the ways La Llorona has terrorized her in so many different ways over the course of many years. And she's finally learning how to enjoy herself. So she's like, I've done all this hard work. I figured out what my tears can do. And I've learned how to work with what's happened to me in a way that is generative and powerful for both myself and my community. So this scene is at the point where she's just run into an old friend who has kind of made her realize how far she's come and how much has changed since her brush with La Llorona, and the fact that she needs to let herself enjoy her life more, because if she's not allowing herself to live, then she's kind of doing half the work for the evil energy of La Llorona. So she's like, I might as well have let La Llorona take me if I'm actually not living my life. So this is an interesting excerpt about Mercy tries to figure out what brings her joy, and also how La Llorona tries to thwart that. So here it goes. One time, I was feeling mighty fine and thought I'd try something different. I saw this ad in a magazine where a woman was in an obscenely large bathtub and covered up to her neck in bubbles. This was in a room with a marble floor, and there were candles everywhere, and she had her hair up all nice and a face mask on. Well, I got to thinking a nice long soak after a hard day's work would be, well, nice. This was a few months after my run-in with Sherry, and I was trying hard to let myself enjoy things more. It occurred to me, after seeing her, that her fatal flaw was not believing that her future was right in front of her. Or maybe she was too afraid to take it with both hands. I began to wonder if we didn't hold back and do half the work for La Llorona with all that we ran from life. So, I bought some bubble bath and made more beeswax candles and set about having myself a spa night. I mean, my bathroom was nowhere near as nice as the one in the picture. My tub was only long enough for me to sit upright and was right next to the toilet, but I made do. It was lovely. I mean, divine. I could see why fancy women like this. I put on the radio, and the music was soft and sweet like the candlelight against the fading day. I was so relaxed that I was about to fall asleep in that tub. That was when I felt the cold hands grip the soles of my feet and pull me under. I should have seen it coming. Why willingly linger in a body of water? But I didn't, and that's how I found myself drowning in bubbles and thrashing around in my tub. It's also how I learned that evil woman, La Llorona, could find me anywhere, and I mean anywhere, so I could never let my guard down. Her grip was strong. Seemed like the harder I fought, the stronger she got. I was flailing about, my arms searching for anything and everything to hold on to, when I knocked one of those beeswax candles into the tub. To this day, I have no idea why that scared her, but it did. She recoiled something quick at the hiss of the flame when the water hit the wax. When the wax hit the water. I didn't waste a second. I hoisted myself out of the tub and collapsed on the bathroom floor, choking and sputtering and sopping wet. It took me forever to clean up the mess and cough up all those flower-scented bubbles. My feet were cold and sore for days, with claw marks where her bony fingers hooked into my skin. Whoever said bubble baths were relaxing was a big, fat liar.
Okay.
That was very good.
We just had to unmute ourselves.
Very good.
Thank you.
Our Amazon delivery came as soon as you started to speak.
Yes, I heard your dog. Very cute.
And we muted ourselves, and she has been barking her head off the whole time.
So she just stopped.
But we could hear you.
Yeah.
And thankfully, because we muted ourselves, everybody else could hear you. That's very good. Very well written. I enjoyed that a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very funny and very scary all at the same time.
Yes.
I definitely wouldn't want La Llorona to pull me down anywhere.
No.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Let alone underwater, right?
Exactly.
I know.
Although she certainly tries, doesn't she?
That was very good. I did want to touch upon your next book. When will that be coming out?
My next book is called Conversations with the Tarot, Bewitching Meditations on the Deck. And this is going to be out August 7th, and it is based on a study I did over the course of about 2 or 3 years, and I posted it on social media. I did weekly draws of the tarot, and I wrote 78-word prose poems for each of the 78 cards in the deck. So I did that as a way to learn the tarot. I was very intimidated by it when I first started, so I said this will be a great exercise to essentially learn how to develop a conversation with the tarot. So the book features those prose poems with an image and then so the image of the card, the prose poem, and then on the next page, the insights. So why did I write the prose poem I did? What was going on in my life when I pulled that card? And how did it help me kind of understand what was going on in my life and understand the message of the card? And some of the cards are upright, some of them are reversed. So I just took them in whatever order they came up in and wrote them that way. So I went through all the cards, upright or reversed, except for one card, the Three of Pentacles, which came in twice for me. I accidentally reshuffled it back in, and I felt like that was the tarot telling me I had more to learn from this card. So I included that as well. So it's a study for anyone who wants to learn how to engage with the tarot. It's also a book of divination in its own right. So you can think of a question and then open the book up randomly and see what insights speak to you. And it's for anyone who just loves the tarot and wants to continue developing their own conversations with it.
Or even someone that doesn't know the tarot.
Yes, absolutely. It's for beginners, people who don't know the tarot and who are tarot curious. And it's not a how-to book in terms of how to read the tarot, but it's more how to begin a creative journey with the tarot if you're interested. So it's kind of in a experimental nonfiction, but it's getting really good reviews so far from the advanced reader copies I sent out. So
good. Yeah. Good.
So that comes out actually released on August 7th, you said?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
All right.
So
too long from now.
Find it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And so if the tarot's ever seemed appealing to you, but you've been maybe a little intimidated to try it, check out this book. It's a very nice entry point into the world of everyday divination.
Or even as you said, anyone that's been tarot curious, like, what is this all about?
Yes, exactly.
I don't understand it. These cards are crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me say from personal experience, it's difficult to learn. There's a lot to learn. So
it is. Yeah.
I like your idea about being tarot curious and just, just going with what you're getting from it, because that's what it's all about anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
For the people that are reading it for themselves. It's
for sure. Exactly. Yeah. And it's definitely designed for people who are doing sort of home reading. So not professionally, for other people. And
exactly.
And I always, and that's how I came up for the title with the book of Conversations with the Tarot, because along with my enchanting cup of coffee in the morning that I absolutely look forward to, I do my daily tarot pool now, thanks to this project. And I really just felt like I'm having a conversation with the tarot every morning. Like, hi, how's your morning going? How'd you sleep? And it's just this beautiful flow that's helped me learn the cards, and I still feel like I'm learning as I go, but it's definitely helped me, writing this book and doing that exercise has helped me realize that there's always more to learn from the tarot, but the most important thing is just to dive in and get to know the cards and spend time with them.
I think that on one of our paranormal podcasts, which is only once a month, the last Thursday of the month, I think our daughter Jessie did a deep dive into the tarot, didn't she? Or she was going to. She hasn't done it yet because we got talking about so many other things. But she reads it every morning for herself, her husband, and their 2 kids. Yeah. And she explained to me how tarot is not what people think it is at all. It's entirely different. The way it came about is entirely different than what you would think.
It started as a card game.
A simple card game.
Yeah. Which I just love, because to me, that's the epitome of everyday magic, or, like mundane divination. It's like, it doesn't have to be reading a crystal ball and, looking into the crystal ball and feeling really spooked by what you're going to find. It's pulling the card and just having a little chit chat.
And really and truly, I think probably everybody does this without even realizing that they're doing it, is that you read the signs throughout the day, things that direct you on what you should or shouldn't be doing. And I don't think people even understand they're reading those signs, you know?
No, I think for a lot of people it's unconscious. And
yes,
when I started studying the tarot for this project more deeply, I realized it was sort of synchronous, because it was at a time when I was really needing to reconnect with my intuition more. My bread and butter job is in academia, which means you're in your head a lot, and it's a community where people are always in their head. So you have to work extra hard to be grounded in your body and in your heart and in your intuition. And so the tarot just really helped me see, oh, this is what I'm already feeling. It's just reminding me that my gut instinct is right, and not to override it because it's not the rational or logical answer to something. And so, I mean, I didn't even know it at the time that that's what I was doing, but looking back, I was like, wow, this is completely synchronous that the tarot came to me at this time. And now it continues to help me when I can feel that I'm getting too much in my head and kind of shutting down my emotional or intuitive life. Tarot's there to be like, nope, let's stay open. Let's stay receptive.
That's exactly what Jessie said, what you just said. She said that it helps her to get in touch with what she or her husband or children really want to do, what direction they want to go in. It has nothing to do with the cards telling them what to do. It has to do with themselves getting in touch with their inner self and know what direction they want to go in. And even if you've never thought like that, almost everybody's had gut feelings about something. I mean, we all do. Whether we acknowledge it or not, we all do. We have a gut feeling about something like, oh, I think maybe I should really go get the car checked or something like that. And if you don't do it, then the car breaks down and you're like, I should listen to myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, you've been wanting to say something, I can see.
No,
not
really. Did you?
No.
I
think I said enough.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Actually, I would just like to thank you so much for having me on your show. I was very excited to be connected with you and to meet fellow supernatural sleuths, people who are in all sorts of spooky stuff, and writing, of course. It's always interesting to me, the overlap between writers and people who have interest in the supernatural and all of that. So really wonderful talking with you.
Yeah, I think people do.
Very nice meeting you and your dad, who was on.
Absolutely.
May 31st.
Yeah.
Yes.
May 31st.
And thank you for my dad for connecting us.
There you go.
And
Must
so
have been in the cards.
Yes, it was in the cards. I like it.
Paul DeBlassie is Dr. Maria DeBlassie's dad.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how we got in touch with Maria. And we're really glad. Yes, Doctor.
Yes, Doctor.
Yes. You guys do that, don't you?
We do. Yes, we family of writers and mystics, and it's really fun being a writer with him too, because we basically went indie together at the same time, and it's really fun sharing that writing journey with him.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really nice. That. Yeah. It is. Yeah. It really is. Our grandson is 10 and he's writing his first book. And I'm going to tell you something. He can write conversations and dialogue better than we can. I told him, we're going to have you write dialogue for our next book.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah. He's really good. I mean, I am like mind blown.
Well, I mean, he's learning from the masters, right?
Grandparents. Listen to your elders. Yeah, he comes over here for us to edit for him.
No, that's great.
We do help him edit.
Yeah.
No, that's lovely.
Yeah. It's on Minecraft.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Our specialty, right?
Exactly.
I don't have to know anything about Minecraft to help him write that book, but
oh, I love that so much.
Thank God, because he knows everything. So
yeah.
In case you're all wondering, they just came out with pink cherry blossom trees for Minecraft Bet you didn't know that little tidbit, Spin.
Nice.
Insider scoop.
What a relief. We've been waiting for that.
Yes. Has the lightest color leaves and the darkest bark. So he found that fascinating.
Pretty cool. Anyway, we won't hold you up any longer. Thank you very much for joining us.
But don't go away. We'll talk to you after the show.
Hang on until we come back to you. We're going to move you over right now. Oops,
Thank you so much.
There. Don't fall off.
Thank you.
But stay right where you're at until we come back to you after our commercials and stuff. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Join us next week for From the Vault, episode 18 with Cheryl Payton and Carrie Ellen Stone. I'm sure you will enjoy that. And when we come back to you live the next time, it's going to be in the middle of August. And we'll be back from our trip, and we'll be enjoying Magnolia Bluff again, reveal part 3, I believe. And do you have anything else you would like to talk about?
Nope. I'm pretty well have said it all.
Okay. Well, then, until next time.
That's all, folks.
Madison Jackson loved being a cop. A young girl is raped and murdered near Burnett Reservoir. Madison vows to get justice for the child. Madison travels to the heart of Mexican cartel country. She is kidnapped, tortured. Will Madison ever make it home? Justice by Kelly Marshall, only at Amazon.com.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE.